You are listening to the Aging Starts Now podcast, where it's all about responding with confidence to the legal, financial, and personal challenges created by a disability, unexpected illness, or aging in general. Join us weekly as elder law attorneys Barbara McGinnis and Chris Johnson, along with other members of the Johnson McGinnis Elder Care Law and Estate Planning team, talk about the tools, techniques, strategies, and services that will make the elder care journey easier for everyone involved. Get ready, because aging starts now.
Welcome to Aging Starts Now, a podcast about responding with confidence to the legal, financial, and personal challenges created by disability, unexpected illness, and aging. I'm Dana Hentschel, Outreach Coordinator with Johnson McGinnis Elder Care Law and Estate Planning, and today we're talking about an issue every caregiver needs to think about. What happens when the weather turns dangerous? From snow and ice to extreme heat and power outages, severe weather can quickly disrupt even the best caregiving routines. That's why in today's conversation, we're focusing on why every caregiver needs a backup plan and how to create one before the emergency hits. Joining me for this important discussion are elder care coordinators Erin Keogh-Rankin, Janel Heflin, and Pati Bedwell. Together, we'll share real-world insights, practical tips, and clear steps caregivers can take to be prepared when conditions are anything but predictable. So let's get started. Janel, in one sentence, why is dangerous weather such a critical issue for caregivers and older adults?
Well, dangerous weather, whether it be extreme heat or severe storms, poses critical risk for our older adult population due to physiological vulnerabilities, reliance on consistent care and utilities, and potentially medication impacts, making proactive planning crucial for caregivers to ensure the hydration of our loved one, access to power, to cooling. Proactive planning is crucial for caregivers and emergency communication for their loved ones.
Yeah. What is one weather-related situation maybe you've seen that made caregiving especially challenging?
I mean, honestly, I would say all of the weather, all of the extreme weather situations and storms, it's all of them. Each one presents a unique challenge, and it significantly increases the challenges of our caregivers by compromising safety, disrupting essential services, and also accelerating caregiver burnout because of the stress.
So when weather disrupts caregiving routines, what usually goes wrong first? I think everything.
Yeah, it's the sky falling, literally. So when weather disrupts the caregiving of routines, we typically see that transportation and logistics, right? Specifically the ability to get to and from the care location usually fails first. It's often followed immediately, though, by the disruption of specialized medical care or personal care services, including maybe a missed home health visit, inability to get to pharmacies, or caregivers not being able to reach their loved ones.
Right. So that I would think that would make relying on a single caregiver or one single plan risky during storms or extreme heat or power outages. Because I know here we often see caregivers and they're just like, well, it's me, nothing's going to happen to me. And I'm the only one that's going to do it. And so what is the problem with that plan?
Absolutely. We often refer to that as a perfect storm of challenges that can lead to severe physical, emotional, and safety issues for both the caregiver and the care of the recipient. During emergencies, when there's no plan, the isolation of that sole caregiver, the one that is going to do it all, and they can't get to the person that needs the care, it can, for the caregiver, can have feelings of helplessness and intense stress, especially when the patient's need is complex and alongside of personal safety for that person.
So, Erin,
Yes.
what is the biggest misconception caregivers have about being prepared? And of course, Erin is one of our other caregivers here, our care coordinators here at the firm.
Yeah. Hi, Dana. Actually, with the misconception, it goes from one extreme to the other. I've seen people where their mindset is, it won't happen to me. Nothing's going to happen to me. I'm fine. Whereas the opposite extreme is they feel like they have to know everything, and stock up on anything and everything, literally from A through Z. So yes, it's good to be prepared, but don't stress yourself out. I mean, reach out for assistance. And that's the reason why we as elder care coordinators love what we do, so we can assist them on this journey in preparation for the inclement weather.
Right. So, if caregivers can only do 3 things to prepare for dangerous weather, what should they be?
Oh my goodness. I would definitely say stock your emergency food supplies. Keep those non-perishable foods, easy to prepare meals, and items that don't require electricity. That's very helpful. And you really want to check those supplies every few months. Don't wait until the last hour. Also, prepare for power loss. Ensure that you have access to flashlights, batteries, the blankets, quilts, warm clothing. And actually, tune in to a battery-powered radio. That's very, very helpful. And always be prepared and pack an emergency bag. Now, in that emergency bag, you want to include clothing and your meds and your toiletries and essential documents ready to go if a loved one needs to really relocate very quickly.
So, I guess this situation of like a tornado, especially, I would think.
Absolutely. We, here in the Nashville area, we've experienced that once too often. So you can never be too prepared, for sure.
Right. So, who should be a part of that caregiver backup plan, and how do families kind of coordinate those roles ahead of time? Because I'm sure maybe one sister is the one that's always does everything and they just rely on that sister to take care of it. Maybe that shouldn't be the case as a backup plan.
Yeah, it's not uncommon. You're right. As far as usually in most families, there is a primary, what we consider primary caregiver, that point person. However, it's always good to have another person or 2 additional people involved in that plan. And it could very well be a trusted neighbor, one that your loved one really has a good relationship with. That's always a good backup plan. And then also, know your doctors, your providers and all. Have that information readily available. Let people know, or maybe your church member, a trusted pastor or a parishioner, make them aware as far as your status, where you're going to be. Are you going to go stay with your eldest daughter or your eldest son or whomever, another family member or another friend? It's important that people in your circle know where to reach you and how to reach you.
Right. So, what critical information should be written down and easy to grab in case of an emergency?
Yeah, absolutely. So you really want to have the list of physicians, your primary care physician, and any specialists that are involved in your health care. Have a list of your updated medications, especially if you're and any of your allergies and all. Have information regarding your insurance information. And also, I always encourage people, have a list of your next of kin as far as who is your healthcare power of attorney, who's your financial power of attorney. That is critical information to have. And, some families, thankfully, are starting to digitize their records and or put this information in a waterproof container that you can easily take with you in the event of an emergency and you need to evacuate.
I think those are all really great points.
Yeah.
And of course, Patti is our third elder care coordinator here at Johnson McGinnis. And Patti, how can caregivers plan for situations when maybe they can't physically reach their loved ones? I mean, as we sit here and record this today, we're looking at a potential ice storm, and they're saying, don't get on the roads. What should caregivers plan for in situations like that, whether you are a non-professional family caregiver or maybe you've hired help?
Well, first off, I think it's very important that a caregiver always know they always have a plan. They should have a plan long before there's a threat of any impending bad weather. Knowing your plan, knowing who is in your plan, and all that sort of stuff is very, very important. So a caregiver really should know who to reach out to if they can't reach their loved one. Is that going to be a neighbor? Is it another family member? Who is it? Who can put eyes on your loved one if you can't? And it's not a bad idea. Not everybody wants to do this, but I don't think it's a bad idea to establish a relationship with a care agency that can step in if you're not able to be there. Maybe you just have them come in once or twice a month, maybe just to get to know your loved one, understand what's going on with them. That way, if something does happen and you're not able to get to them, you at least have somebody that has information and knowledge about them. Also important to have your emergency supplies in place where your caregiver or where your care recipient is, wherever your loved one is. Have an emergency bag for them of things, food, water, that sort of stuff. So in the event no one can get to them for a short period of time, they'll at least have access to adequate food and water and medications and things like that.
Mm-hmm. So, what's the most common planning mistake that you see caregivers make?
I think the most common mistake caregivers make is thinking they can do it all and thinking maybe when they start out, caregiving is an easy thing to do. It's kind of similar to taking care of your kids or that sort of thing. So they're not always prepared for the care needs as they change and as care needs grow. And that can lead to all sorts of issues with the caregiver and with the person that they're caring for. You can think of caregiver burnout if you started out and you thought you could do all these things and now it's just more and more and more. Caregiver burnout, sickness, stress, those kinds of things can all affect a caregiver. And so to me, that is the most common mistake. Just thinking that they can do it all. And so they don't have a support group. They don't have a support team they can count on or anyone that they can turn to if they are feeling burnout or that sort of thing. Much less, you have a weather event that comes up and then what do you do?
Right. So, how can caregivers overcome resistance from loved ones who don't want to plan for emergencies? Because I know that when my aunt was at home, she's used to caring for me, not the other way around. And it's probably like, I'm going to be fine. I don't need to do all of this. I've survived worse things than a little snow.
Right. That's the idea that a lot of us have, especially a lot of our elderly. Yeah, this is nothing. It's just a storm. So my advice to caregivers is just keep on planning. You are the one that's going to be handling things in case of an emergency, right? So you're the one that needs to get the plans together, whether your loved one is on board with that or not. They don't have to buy into it. But I guarantee you, if there is an emergency, they will be so glad that you did and that you did prepare for it. So, that's the best thing. Just keep on. Just make your plan. Keep them aware of what the plans are. But, as far as them actively participating in the emergency planning for weather disasters, I think you can do that with or without them.
Right. And what is the one step listeners can take this week to start or improve their backup plan?
Well, if they don't have a backup plan, that's the best place to start. What kind of a backup plan do you need? How much care does your loved one require? That's going to determine how you're going to formulate your backup plan. If you're planning for weather emergency, as I think Janel said, your plan's going to be different if it's a snowstorm than if it's a tornado that's coming. So you have to have multiple plans in mind, maybe, for weather, but there's a whole lot of similarities. It's a great idea to know who your emergency team is. Again, is it your neighbors, your loved ones, a care agency? Who's going to help you out in case of an emergency? And what are they going to do? Who can get to your loved one the quickest? That sort of thing. Once you've figured those things out, then talk with your loved one and your backup team so everyone knows their roles and they know what to do in case of an emergency.
Wonderful. Well, is there any one message that you want caregivers to remember when the weather turns dangerous? And of course, this is for any of you on the podcast today. Prepare.
You can't prepare enough. Be sure you have your emergency plan, your supplies. If something happened, do you have enough food? Do you have enough water? Do you have medications? Do you have blankets, change of clothes, all those sorts of things? Kind of like have your bag ready, like if you were going to the hospital to have a baby or something like that. Just know where your stuff is so you can readily grab onto it. And just prepare as much as you can. Know where your emergency supplies are. Know if you have to take shelter, where that shelter is going to be. Is that an area in the house? Where and how do we get there? How easy is that? Make sure that those areas are easy to get to at all times, because we never know when a disaster is going to come up. That's why they call them emergencies, So just do as much preparation and planning for an emergency. As we say here many times, plan for the worst and then hope for the best.
Dana, this is Erin, and Pati, thank you. I'd like to add just something as well. There is something that's considered the 5 Ps. You plan, right? And also participate and protect yourself, prepare, and practice. Oftentimes I hear that, with a fire emergency exit plan and all, put it into practice and really allow the loved one, the senior, to participate in that plan. Because when they are actively involved in that plan, they're more than likely willing to go along with it and really honor the plan itself, what was in place.
Right. Well, wonderful. Well, I want to thank all 3 of you, Erin, Janel, Pati, for sharing your expertise and guidance with us today. I think this is really important information and really good stuff. And today's conversation is a powerful reminder that when it comes to caregiving, planning ahead isn't about fear, it's about peace of mind. And dangerous weather can strike without warning, but having a solid backup plan can make all the difference for caregivers and the people who depend on them. If you found today's episode helpful, be sure to subscribe and share it with someone who may be caring for an aging loved one. And if you need support navigating the caregiving challenges or planning for the future, the team here at Johnson McGinnis Elder Care Law and Estate Planning is here to help. Thank you so much, and join us next week for another episode of Aging Starts Now.
Thank you for listening to the Aging Starts Now podcast. For more information about today's show, visit tn-elderlaw.com, click on the Free Resources tab, and then click on Aging Starts Now. You'll find the show notes there. And while you're at it, why not check out all the free resources available at tn-elderlaw.com? Document downloads, the Johnson McGinnis blog, educational videos, informative articles, helpful links, a TV show, and more. It's all there, free for the taking. If you enjoy listening to the Aging Starts Now podcast, please subscribe, rate the show, or leave us a review. It's easy to do on whatever app you use to listen. We would love your feedback on the show. Aging Starts Now. We'll be back next week with more candid discussions about the challenges created by aging, disability, and unexpected illness.